Good morning, everybody. This is the very first time I have ever presented a show from a cave. Yes, imagine that. Good morning, everyone. I am in Ololua Nature Trail in Karen, and guess what? I'm literally inside a cave, and this cave is 37 meters deep. Can I just tell you, I hear that there's bats in here, and sometimes animals come and sleep here. Imagine. All right, so I'm not going to go all the way in. Today's show is very, very special, which is why we've done it this way. It's really about nature, it's about conservation, it's about environment, but mostly it's about a woman who left us with a big mission, Wangari Mathai. We'll tell you about that in just a second. I want out. I think I need to leave this place. It's dark. In actual fact, I can't see because of this light. It's so dark. I'm scared, literally. Wakasa! There's Wakasa. My security. Sesema, Wakasa.
Yeah.
Are you scared?
No.
Should we leave or should we go in?
No, let's leave.
I think we should leave. I'm so excited, everybody. I finally found Wanjira. It's such a beautiful morning, and we're so happy to have her here. We're still at Ololua Nature Trail, and today we're talking about the environment, conservation, but keenly on new beginnings, transitions, and changes, which Wanjira herself is going through. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, thank you, Kobi.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
You are one of our leads for season 4, so we're super excited.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
we're stepping
That's
out of the
awesome.
studio.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're
Thank
very
you.
happy. Wanjira, how's your 2018 so far?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little lighter. I've set down some things that I was doing last year, and we've gone through a lot of stuff that has ended. So this is really about new beginnings.
Absolutely,
lovely,
absolutely.
yes.
Let's start from the very, very beginning. Wanjira, tell us a little bit about, of course, the background of Greenbelt movement and the achievements, how far you have come.
Well, I'm really proud of the Greenbelt movement, an organization that was started in Kenya, founded by Kenyans, is marking 40 years. 40 years is a long time. I recently received a message from my friends at UNDP. They're marking 50 years.
Wow.
And that's UNDP.
That's huge.
Here's the Greenbelt movement, an indigenous environmental organization that works primarily with women to try and raise awareness about the environment, the importance, the linkages between environmental conservation and our own livelihoods, that our own survival depends on the health of our environments. And we're lucky to live in a country like this that is largely quite green, and we hope it stays that way. But that call and that responsibility has been on each of our shoulders. But the Greenbelt movement has been a great advocate and a great voice for ensuring that it stays that way. So the last 40 years, I must say, have been marked with amazing milestones. I think for many people in the general public, they will never forget the campaigns to save Uhuru Park and Karura Forest.
Absolutely.
And we must always remember that that was a group of Kenyans that then were the organization, but then joined by Kenyans from the University of Nairobi, the religious community, everybody rising up to protect these green spaces. Yes, led by my mother, Wangari Mathai, but also supported so across the spectrum by young and old. So I think those campaigns were clear milestones, and they remain milestones today. But I think maybe for me, when I sit back and I think what perhaps the greatest achievement is, it's raising environmental awareness. Kenyans today are some of the most environmentally conscious people in the world. You go anywhere around the country today and you ask people, what would you do? I walked into Uhuru Park about 5, I would say 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I started just asking people, they didn't know who I was. I was just asking them, what would you do? Do you remember the campaign to save this park? And they said, yes. Actually, I was still a photographer. The young man was a photographer then. He's still a photographer now. And he told me, I would not sit back if I had anything that was going to challenge Uhuru Park. I gained my livelihood from this park, but more than that, on weekends, it's packed full by Kenyans who have come to enjoy what is now scientifically proven to be medically beneficial, spending time in green spaces. We're lucky to have one right in the middle of our city, and then of course Karura Forest. So I think that consciousness has been perhaps one of the greatest achievements of the movement. But as you can imagine, it takes time, right? It's taken 30, 40 years for us to get where we are. And so, but it's a great milestone.
Yes, absolutely. Green Belt movement has been such a huge part of our society. Tell us a little bit about when you really felt that this movement had taken on a life of its own, and also the trickle-down effect it's had on other groups that are doing similar work.
The Green Belt movement will always need to be stewarded, and it will always need good leadership, and it will always need people there. But I stepped down as chair this year at the annual general meeting. But I'll remain a member of the organization, probably even come back onto the board at some point. But I think it's so important for us to refresh the leadership. I heard a good friend of mine said that if any organization that does not have a youth strategy for the next phase of its life is doomed.
Right.
So everybody has to have an agenda for youth. So even at the Greenbelt movement, we're thinking about what does the Greenbelt movement agenda for youth look like? And we need to bring new voices, new young people into the organization to help us think through this. So I think it's a wonderful time for a transition. I suddenly feel prepared to step back. I remember 6 years ago, just after my mother had passed, just knowing that people didn't want to see me out of the organization. They wanted to see me there. But now feeling that it's quite comfortable. Right. I don't feel like I'm abandoning anyone.
Right.
I feel like it's just, it's the right time.
Okay.
And knowing it's the right time is also quite important. So
Absolutely.
We have a new chair in Mrs. Marion Kamau, who's already in office, and I've been working very closely with her. But I'm really excited about what the ideas she brings. Right. She's extremely keen about reviving some of the movements, groups out in the field. We've had thousands of women involved in the movement, and not all of them have continued to be part of us. But we want to go back and say, we're here. And we have a campaign called Bringing Back the Love, that we are saying, where are you? Anyone who was touched by the movement, we want to see you. We want to bring you back in. What new ideas do we have to share? And we begin to bring back the movement, because now it's really about environmental conservation, but layering it with other things. We have energy initiatives that are part of the movement. We have youth initiatives. Extremely important is entrepreneurship initiatives, so that youth don't feel like they have to be employed by somebody. Exactly. You can create your own entrepreneurship opportunities using, for example, bamboo. Bamboo is coming up as one of the most important biomass sources for both entrepreneurship and for biomass for energy. These are opportunities that youth can exploit. And we are excited to be part of a group of organizations that are promoting this sort of new look at conservation. One of the things you mentioned earlier is that your focus in 2018 is really going to be about the youth tapping into their potential, into some of the innovations, and in really the need there. Tell us a little bit about this focus on the youth and other projects that you're really passionate about at Greenbelt. Well, I think what I've mentioned on the entrepreneurship side, that's across the country, so that people don't feel like they have to come to urban areas to get employment. Actually, planting bamboo, you need to be out in the field, etc. But I also think that there is a new opportunity, especially as our country continues to get more and more engaged. Politically charged we are, but I think environmentally we need to be stewards ourselves. We're starting a campaign, Ni Wakati Wetu. It is our turn. We need to be the ones who respond to any sort of affront on our public spaces. Because even though we have Karura Forest, we have Uhuru Park, there's so many other green spaces that are under attack. Absolutely. Children's playgrounds, we have school playgrounds, we know that school compounds, and there's so many other environmental issues that need our attention. Wherever you are, that we want youth to be conservation advocates. Right. We want them to always know that it is their responsibility. And in fact, today in our constitution, we have a right to a clean and green environment. Right. That we fight for that right, and we make sure that we exert that right. So, and beginning to educate young people through the organization that these are their rights, and these are ways that every day you can exercise them. And you don't have to be a conservationist. One of my favorite all-time 40 years, what is my favorite story about the Greenbelt movement is that Uhuru Park was saved by a young lawyer. Yes, the Greenbelt movement led the campaign, but it was a young law school student who gave information to the Greenbelt movement that something was amiss. For many years, we didn't even know who this young man was. He had sworn everyone who knew to secrecy. But he essentially was moved enough as a law school student. So he wasn't an environmentalist professed, but he was young and he was motivated and he was inspired enough to say, that's wrong, and I'm going to bust it. So he busted it. And it was, of course, the actions that followed. But without him, we would not have had.
And the bravery at the time.
The courage.
For him to have
precisely.
The courage for that.
Courage.
Amazing.
So it's each of us, wherever we are. You could be in a bank doing, and you see something, that you have the courage to say something.
Absolutely.
If you see something, say something.
Very, very true. Wanjira, we all find change kind of daunting, scary, and comfortable. How has it been for you making this decision to transition from Greenbelt movement now into the Wangari Maathai Foundation?
I know. Well, it is. I love the work of the Greenbelt movement, and by no means am I going anywhere. But I think that it is extremely important to realize when it's time to hand over things to other people. And I think that the movement is ripe. The 6 years, and first of all, it takes a long time to manage a transition. The Greenbelt movement lost its founder in 2011. That was 7 years ago. And you can imagine, 7 years ago this year, it takes a long time. It is only now that I can say without any exaggeration that the organization is ready to move on. Because it was extremely traumatic, it was sudden. And of course it was also, it leaves you in a spin because I was a holder of the vision as well. So that getting through all of that and making sure that we were there to make sure that it happens was a really important part of that. When you feel that that's in place, obviously there are tremendous lessons learned, challenges that were faced. I mean, the first 40 years of the Greenbelt movement, I would say the last 7 have been the most challenging, dealing with leadership, ensuring that we have the right leadership, ensuring that we have policies. Any organization out there that is learning from an organization like the Greenbelt movement, ensuring that you have solid policies in place, including whistleblower policies that ensure that your staff feel comfortable to tell you. They've been there with you, some for 20 years, when things are not going well, have been perhaps for me the highlight. We have an amazingly committed group of staff who have been with us, some of them for a long time in the field, have come into the office, but many who are so committed to the mission, it's beyond a job.
Right.
And so when you see that, you know it will be okay. It will be okay.
And that is very comforting, I'm sure, for you as you transition.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is.
So, guys, we're going to take a very, very quick break. But before we do, very important indeed that we look at how far back we have come. Greenbelt movement is an institution that has definitely steered this country in the right direction when it comes to conservation and being environmentally aware. Let's take a look at that. When we get back, Wanjira and I will discuss the next chapter of her new life, the Wangari Maathai Foundation. We'll be right back after this. Beautiful, beautiful stuff there, Wanjira. Thank you again, of course. Now, tell us a little bit about this new chapter of your life, the transition. Talk to us a little bit about the Wangari Maathai Foundation and what you'll be doing.
Well, the Wangari Maathai, I'm really excited about the Wangari Maathai Foundation. I'm going to be spending more of my time working on that and growing some of the programmatic areas. And the foundation was really set up as another legacy initiative. You know, the Greenbelt movement remains the flagship legacy of Wangari Maathai, her legacy to the environment and to young people and to this country and Africa and the world. But we felt like we needed to leverage the story of her life a little bit more. What lessons does it have for young people? And how can they be inspired? How can we inspire more good people, honest people, people of principle, values, and integrity, as Wangari Maathai was? And so we started to toy with the idea of course, the Wangari Maathai House, which we launched a year ago, and one that is truly an aspirational project, and we really are continuing to work to see how we can make it happen. And there are exciting partnerships, and hopefully our next show, Kobi, I can share with you what some of the ideas that have come up. And that is really to have a home for her works and walks, and also for the Nobel Peace Prize. It's the world's most prestigious prize. It has no business being anywhere in my family. It needs to be out there so that your kids, my kids,
little
can
kids
enjoy
can come
and see it and feel like they too have a path
Because it's a huge, proud moment for this country, and we felt so much ownership around it, and that's such a great idea.
As we should. And I think it belongs somewhere in the public.
Right.
And so the House will be part of that. But we wanted to make sure that within the House, we also have programs. And there are two main programs that we're looking at. One is called Wanakesho. Wanakesho is about children of tomorrow and what is their future. Because we look today at the leaders that we have, wherever across the spectrum, political, environmental, whatever. These are people, mostly, at least I can speak for myself, of my generation, many of them. And so how quickly time changes and transitions happen. So we know that these young people today, in the age of 10 to 17, in no time at all will be in places of leadership.
Yes.
What will they be? What kind of leaders will they be? What kind of people will they be? What kind of Kenyans will they be? So we thought it would be wonderful to leverage the story of Wangari Maathai's life. And if you remember, she always spoke about her early years as being such a huge influence in who she became. And so if we agree that she was quite an incredible person, committed, honest, and had a lot of integrity, if we look back at her life, what are some of the milestones that we can say influenced? And by far, her childhood was a big influencer in who she later became. So we are looking at how do we influence the childhood of young children so that they can experience, so experiential is important. What it means to be a courageous person, what it means to have integrity, what it means to have, to be honest. And so we're working through a role modeling process to see if you admire this person. And we're not saying that Wangari Maathai is the only person they admire. We've gone to places like the Dr. Robert Ouko Primary School. And they, of course, have an incredible Kenyan in Dr. Robert Ouko to emulate. But when you ask those children, why is Dr. Robert Ouko a great symbol for you? He was honest, he was brilliant, he worked hard, and values begin to emerge as why they admire certain individuals. And so it follows. If you want to be like Dr. Robert Ouko, these are some of the values, and they identify them themselves, that you need to exhibit. And I think one of the things that I'm so motivated about the foundation is if we can seed these sorts of ideas in children, I'd be hard-pressed to see how we wouldn't get a crop of Kenyans who just are prepared to face whatever challenges head on and with integrity and courage.
And across the board, and we're actually forming new leadership in this country, which will obviously change the direction of where we're going. You have programs that are very close to your heart. One of them you mentioned was the Mara Girls. Talk to us a little bit about those projects and how they're impacting their communities.
Well, the Wangari Maathai Foundation's programming, Wanakesho, and we have another program called Encourage, which is about building courageous leadership, are really both about ensuring that we see. It's one thing to be surrounded by stuff, but it's quite another to see it. You might be surrounded by a degraded mountain, but you don't notice that it's degraded because you haven't really paid attention. So it's about sharpening that sense. So one of the things, and both with the Wanakesho program and the Encourage program, both targeting young people, Wanakesho ages of 10 to 17, Encourage 17 to 35. So those are much older university level conversation cafes where we are exploring issues of concern to them and linking those to some of the skills that they need and bringing in people who can build those skills. But at the core of Encourage is the conversation about values, the conversation about what we care about, the conversation about where we find ourselves as a country. And last year it was dominated by political discourse because we were discussing what does it mean to pick the leader that will do what's good for you, and not because he comes from where I come from and not because he comes from my party. But when will there be a time when we as young people, they were discussing amongst themselves, will become we'll pick our leaders based on ideologies that they believe in. What do they actually believe in? And that will be the determinant for who we select. And we're getting there. I mean, I was fascinated to sit with a group of young politicians from young, I would say, affiliates of Jubilee and NASA. And they basically agreed that they have no difference. They're exactly the same. And in fact,
what they want,
they're just looking to be heard. They have common visions. They want to be heard and they want their issues to be addressed. And so that can be done across parties, and it was already the beginnings of, so explore what those leaders look like. So those, the older ones, we deal with that. But Wanakesho is looking at young people, young kids who are at the ages 10 to 17. And we're working, for example, piloting our initiative with the Mara Girls Leadership School. And this is a leadership school of girls, grades 6 to 8, who are, I think it's 5 to 8. And they are essentially selected for their leadership potential. However, they have a criteria that they pick them. They obviously have had a certain level of academic achievement. Yes. But really important is that they have something. You know, that thing. That thing. So that thing that once they show that thing, they come to this place. And the Mara Girls has invited the Wangari Mathai Foundation to come and introduce this values-based work. Okay. And we are exploring how exactly to do it. But what we know for sure is that it has to be based on their context. Sure. So we've gone to the Mara Girls Leadership School a few times, and what's very clear is they're surrounded by pastoralist communities that face very unique challenges around overgrazing. They have really rich wildlife resources and what that means for their community. At the time when we went, there was also a lot of plastic waste everywhere. Right. And making sure that they actually see that plastic waste and ask themselves immediately, what are we going to do about it? Not wait for somebody else to come or trudge through it as if it's not part of their reality. So it's really about making sure people see their immediate environment and that actually the health and well-being of your community is your responsibility. Absolutely. And that, if we can achieve that, success.
Wanjira, one of the things I can definitely say is that you have done quite a lot, but I also really believe in partnerships, and I know you do too. Talk to us a little bit about that. What is required to scale this to next in terms of partnerships, support, volunteering? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, thank you for asking that, because we need all the support we can get. I think it's such an incredible time this next few years as Kenya is rethinking its educational curriculum, that we engage and ensure that it stays true to the plans that were in place, and we support whatever initiatives are going on. Yeah. I'm most excited as a foundation on the pillars of community engagement, and of course the values-based. This is coded in our curriculum, that we have an enthusiastically empowered, empathetic and engaged child. Yeah. I mean, this is an amazing vision, and I don't even think we've ever had a vision for our education system before. So it is a really good time for us to engage. So all partners who are engaged, especially in early childhood education, that we hold hands, that we form some sort of coordinated effort to put our effort squarely on ensuring that we do not lose the pillars of values-based education and certainly of community engagement. That if our kids grow up with those tools and those skills, they're so much better for it, and our country is so much better for it. So we need sponsors, we need donors who are involved in the education space to reach out to us and let us know. You can reach out to us at wangarimathai.org and let us know how you want to engage on this discussion on education. Absolutely. And certainly for schools that are interested in the values-based work that we're doing, let us know. We'd love to come. We're visiting schools in different places. We'd love to know where you are, and especially around the country. We are incredibly inspired by movements like the Girl Guide movement. The Scout movement is one of the most successful movements in the world. True. And we're going to be talking to them and exploring how we can work together. Maybe even come up with a values badge that then becomes something that the girls and the boys work hard to earn. And then of course the Wildlife Clubs of Kenya. So there are many organizations that have done a lot of work with children in fun and innovative ways. Yes. And that's critical for us, that this learning be fun, innovative, creative, and that it brings out and be community based, very specifically about where they are from, and brings out the best in the children, even as they focus on the competency side of their education.
Wanjira, I'm so excited for you. Are you nervous at all about your new chapter? I'm
not nervous, and maybe that's a problem. But I think it's really exciting. And then sometimes you get that instinct that this is the right place, that this is where you need to be. And I really have that feeling.
Thank you. Thank you, Wanjira, so much. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to see us.
Thank you. Thank you, Kobi.
My pleasure. Thank you. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go on a nature trail walk. All right? Yeah, I think I'm gonna go alone. Right? Okay, everybody, listen. I hear there's a waterfall here. I hear there's a cave. Yo, you saw the cave. You saw the cave when we got in here, right? I'm gonna go now deeper in, okay? And I'm gonna see the rest of this beautiful, beautiful place and learn more about Ololua Nature Trail. Follow me, everybody. After the break, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. What an amazing day. What an amazing conversation there with Wanjira Mathai. We are still here at Ololua Nature Trail, and I think it's just so beautiful that I wanted to find out a little bit about the background and the history. This is actually a national heritage, and this morning we have the pleasure of having with us Lucy. She's so awesome. Listen to that name in itself. She invited us here and we're so grateful. And we wanted to know a little bit about the place. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you
You
too.
look great.
You look great too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
I'm glad to be here.
Asante sana.
Yes.
So Ololua Nature Trail is a national heritage, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have national the caves.
Yeah.
We have Mau caves that the Mamaus used during the Liberation War.
Yeah.
And
Shall
they
we walk?
Hid there, yes.
Yeah.
And they hid there and they did their thing there. We have the beautiful Bagath River.
Yes.
That is our waterfall. The river is a permanent river, so the waterfall is there throughout.
I have to see it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's there throughout. You're welcome to see it. It's
you.
magnificent.
Okay.
Yes.
Looking at, of course, Ololua and how much work has gone into this, there's been so many, in terms of the history of the country, there's been issues of deforestation, land grabbing, infringement and encroachment. How was this place maintained for all these years? It's so beautiful.
Well, we are part of the National Museums of Kenya.
Okay.
And so we are parastatal. So one of the things we do here is we work with the forestry department to conserve the forests.
Okay.
Currently we have a team that is working on fencing the old forests.
Okay.
And actually it's a good thing. And then we also work with the community. We have an Ololua Forests Community Association.
Oh,
That's
the residents around the area.
Yes,
Okay.
they have their own selected, they have elected leaders
Okay.
who we work with, even now in the fencing project,
Yeah.
whom we are working with.
Okay.
So we try as much as possible to maintain the forest as it is naturally. The trees are natural,
It's beautiful.
and even when a tree is dry and it falls in the forest, we leave it to rot. We don't give out firewood, we don't cut trees for timber. We try as much as possible to maintain it as natural as possible.
All right, Lucy-Line, there are two things that you do here. It's not just about recreation and nature. There's more to Ololua.
Yes. Our main job here is we do biomedical research.
Okay.
We are an institute that does biomedical research. This is the study of human diseases using non-human primates.
Okay.
So we have various departments that study tropical infectious diseases, non-communicable diseases. We have a whole department that keeps the animals, the animal model that we use.
So you're talking here about non-human primates, monkeys, baboons, chimpanzees?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
All those are non-human primates,
Yes.
but we don't use them all. We use those that are rampant. We use baboons. We use sykes, monkeys. These are animals that are around. They are not endangered in any way.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
So we cannot use a chimpanzee. We cannot use a
Oh,
baboon.
right, of course, because they are endangered.
Yes, they are closest
I'm
to
learning.
us. They would be the ideal to use.
Okay.
In terms of reaction to these viruses and things like that, but we don't use them because they are endangered.
Of course, and everything is about conservation,
Yes.
conservation,
Yes.
conservation.
Yes.
Speaking of endangered, I hear there is an amazing eagle here.
Oh yes, something
Tell
we
me.
are very proud of.
Tell me about it.
We have the crown eagle.
Okay.
It's endemic to our forest. It's something that someone even has done research on it in our forest here. We have a beautiful place he has built. I don't know if you have time, you can see it.
I actually saw that, like a wooden, nice,
yes,
tall
yes,
looking structure.
We call it the Eagle Height Watchtower.
So someone used to be in there watching the eagle.
Yes, yes.
Oh, and
yes.
studying and
researching on it.
This is beautiful work.
So actually I hear that it had disappeared for a while,
Yeah.
but now I hear it's come back and it has bred. It has a chick.
little chick.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
Other things that Kenyans can come and see. I can definitely see that you're open to the general public.
Yes, we are.
Talk to me about that.
We at a very minimal fee, just for maintenance. We charge 200 shillings for every Kenyan adult, and 100 shillings for children.
Wow, that's very reasonable.
And we are open every day
Really?
Every Christmas Day, Sunday, Saturday, we are open every day of the week.
Okay.
From 9 to 5.
Wow. And
So-
guys can come, there's benches, there's places to picnic, there's places to relax.
Yes, we allow people to come and picnic. They can bring the food from outside. We do not have a restaurant.
Okay.
If you've walked around, you'll see we do not.
Very
we
raw.
don't, yeah,
It's
we not,
very
it's
raw,
very raw,
which
yeah.
I love, because I feel like there's other places, but they almost seem overused
Yeah.
in a sense. And I like the fact that this place hasn't been overly developed. It's very, very natural.
We want to maintain it that way.
That's
we want
lovely.
to maintain it that way. So even guys can come and camp. They
Okay.
can stay overnight. But it's still the forest floor.
Oh,
Yes,
this
it's
is
still the
unbelievable.
forest floor. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your work and how long you've worked here. And I'm sure you love coming to work. This is your
I
office.
enjoy my work.
This is so awesome.
It's fresh air.
Yeah.
I enjoy my work here. I've been here since 2010. I joined the museum, my employer,
Yeah.
earlier, like 4 years earlier.
Okay.
Then I was transferred here as a marketing officer.
Okay.
So my work here is to market this forest,
Yeah.
market the nature trail. That's the forest basically, and
Exactly.
and the work we do.
All right, this is so beautiful. One thing I can say, Lucy, is Kenyans have become a lot more conscious, a lot more aware of conservation efforts in the country, about the environment. I believe someone like Wanjira Mathai, may she rest in peace, left us with a huge task.
Yes, a huge task,
Yeah.
but she laid the foundation
And
for
the
us.
groundwork,
Yes,
you know.
yes,
But
yes.
speaking about that, are we doing better when it comes to deforestation, when it comes to the Kenyan consciousness in terms of conservation, tree cutting versus tree planting? Where are we?
Well, that's difficult.
Yeah, it's very hard to gauge actually.
It's hard to gauge, and here at Ololua we try as much as possible to avoid deforestation. In fact, we have a tree planting day as staff later this quarter. This quarter, one of the activities we have is tree planting.
Okay.
But even within these forests, we are now, as I've told you earlier, we are putting a fence to avoid any kind of logging.
Right.
But currently, even if you walk around, you'll see the trees
That have fallen, they've been left.
They've been left
Yeah,
there.
very
We
true.
don't cut trees.
Okay.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Lucy, thank you so much for having us.
I am so glad
It
to
is
be here.
such a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for hosting me.
Absolutely. Guys, Ololua Nature Trail is actually in Karen. It feels like it's outside Nairobi, all right? We're still in Nairobi County, okay? After Karen Blixen, you can't miss it. Log on to our social media platforms where we'll give you exact directions. As you've heard, they are welcoming everyone. If you have a day off with your family, this is somewhere where you can come, you can picnic, you can camp, you can just walk and have a great and very relaxing day. I'm going to head over to the waterfalls, all right? You guys have to come along. But for right now, travel guide. There are many, many beautiful forests in this country, some of which you didn't even know about. I didn't know about Ololua. Thank God for my producer who brought us here, all right? So take a look at travel guide and learn a little bit about forest cover in the country.
Capital.